Welcome to a special Sunday Sabbath rock and roll edition. Yours truly. I was a bit of a mess. I started a bit being moody. I was a bit moody, but now I'm feeling much better. I said my gratitude, grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food and coffee. Got coffee and I even got, because it's the Sabbath. Thank you for the donation. I got a little bit of milk. North Americans Unite, your truly special Dragon versus Trump edition. If you don't know that, I've been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border ever since. Donald Trump imposed tariffs on the Canadian aluminum and steel in 2018, and this Canadian Quebecer has been challenging Donald Trump on the Canadian-US border to fight in a boxing match. And this Quebecer Canadian was born in the United States 3 times. Once was born as a woman, you get that 50-50 now, and twice was born as a man. I served in 2 different wars in the same United States Army, 156 years apart. Yours truly. Now I'm gonna put some of this special milk from Canada, dairy farmers of Canada from Quebec. Milk, thank you to the cows, and encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. Working out, train, exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. Was a bit moody. I wish I could have afforded a massage therapy session, but I'm financially stressed at the moment. Just financially stressed. Open for business, 24/7, independent artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, and yours truly mystic. Right here from this underground room office and temple, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise, and calling for the North American Democratic Republic Union. My dream, manifesting as the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the collective North American civilizational complex across North America. Grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bills paid, got food, got coffee, and got this milk and got some pie, Canadian pie. Yours truly, North American local. No to the tariffs, and there's alternatives. Yours truly, we're gonna discuss on a freestyle rock and roll rainbow geopolitics and rock and roll as I go. Gonna add some milk to the cup of coffee because I got milk. Thank you for the donation to those who donated this 150 milliliters of yours truly milk. And was a bit on the moody side, but I saluted the sun, the sunset, so my Pope, the King, the Sun, and I got a little bit on the better side, but I was a bit of a mess. I was craving a massage therapy session, but cannot afford one. But I'm gonna take a bath, BATH, to encourage all to take baths, regular bathing, because I've been on the fitness journey ever since 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast. And yours truly, I love working out. And yesterday I went on a little bit of shopping workout, and Friday more than 6 hours and more than 6.5 hours to the mountain and back and roundabout Montreal. So that was a hell of a workout, and I'm a bit sore, so I'm gonna take a bath to substitute for a massage therapy session. But you know what? Millionaires, Wall Street millionaires and billionaires, please finance those who pick up the garbage, the public workers who pick up the garbage and the compost, and the nurses and the firefighters. LOV to the firefighters, LOVE to the firefighters in North America. Finance them a massage therapy session because they deserve it, and they earn it more than yours truly, independent, financially struggling artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, rainbow dragon. Friends with benefits only from today until tomorrow. Live carpe diem. And since I died of COVID 2020, February, March, encourage you all to public hygiene. Got 3 vaccines, and I had COVID right here in this room, office and temple. And I'm going to be marking 5 years in February, mid-February till about early March, mid-February 2020 till about early March. I had COVID right at the beginning, right around mid-February till about first week of March. So right here in this underground room house in Temple, I died. Nothing that I want to go back to. And I'm a philosopher open for business. I died right here in this room house in Temple. I'm being reborn. And I encourage all to work out, train, exercise. And working out, train, and exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. And I have Asperger's, HFA, which I've been learning to manage my characteristics, because it's not symptoms. Symptoms is more for an illness, although Asperger's in certain conditions, situations of social norms and compatibilities, there is a more social awkwardness, and I am less able myself, as many Aspies are, in certain social circumstances and social interactions and such and the like. But in certain things we are great and super and excellent, such as when we're involved in those interests that are called obsessive, but it's not really an obsessive interest. It's more special, highly focused, concentrated interest. And my special concentrated interests are geopolitics, the study, the analysis of geopolitics 24/7, coupled with sports and fitness, dancing. Dancing is my favorite sport. Dancing is my favorite fitness activity, and rock and roll 24/7 for the farmers. Butchers, the truckers, rock and roll. Let's rock and roll a little bit. It's good with some milk in it. I'm gonna. For the farmers, the butchers, the truckers on the road carrying all those products, the nurses, the grocery store clerks, all in the fast food, flipping some burgers, some cheeseburgers, all the nurses, and all truly the workers who made less than 50,000. Please increase in charity, millionaires, billionaires, and support the dream. My dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the North American civilizational collective complex, across the North American civilizational complex, across the North American civilizational complex. As I am here, North American, Canadian, Quebecer who wishes for world peace, but gonna play that coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Support the dream. Friends with benefits only. Pledge your allegiance. Legions, part of the LGBTQ community. Yours truly, Rainbow Dragon, encouraging all alike to work out, train, exercise, and sometimes centrism. My universal revolutionary centrism proposes some solutions which are inadequate in the 21st century for some resolutions. And it's not all about fight, 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 fight. It takes some of that LOVE, it takes some of that love and understanding, and we cannot base everything on strength. As the policies, as much as I understand, peace through strength, the policy, peace through strength, as a policy directive, as I have predicted, of course, an international conflagration back in 2019. I'm going to just put my socks for this one. I'm going to put my new socks. It's the first time that I wore them, and I'm going to take off the new socks. I got to give the shout out to my anonymous friend who gifted me these 2 pair of socks and many other pair of socks. If I make a billion, a trillion, I'm going to give half 50% of the greatest socks I ever had. So I'm just going to take these socks off and put the other socks as I'm ready for that rock and roll. As I go, these were also gifted in by my friends, so I'm auctioning them for $1 million. Gonna give half 50% and paid my $10,000 debt. Here they're worn by yours truly, Rainbow Dragon, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, and mystic, believer, reincarnations. Who's a wannabe Telemite, 93, bury me with Papa Crowley, a third of me up in Hampton, New Jersey, and here it is, auctioning them for $1 million. I'm gonna put these new socks, the rainbow socks on. We gotta sing it for the firefighters, LOVE, for the butchers and the truckers and the nurses. Hey, those on the steel toes going with some cranes, for the public workers on the lanes, with those trucks picking up the garbage, sanitation, picking and flipping some burgers. It ain't all about Wall Street. It's not all about Wall Street. Sometimes we all just gotta eat, for the feeling, for the billions, for the kisses that I got. Gotta get that goddess blessings, for I got the lessons. Hey, I am an aspie, so I can go a little bit on the weirdo. But when it comes to rock and roll, at 24/7 as I go. Rock and roll is one of my special interests as an aspie, who has HFA. And I can go into rock and roll trances and create songs on the daily, French and English, English and French, vice versa, on the daily. And I'm going to put this other pair of socks, auctioning them for $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, Got that. A pair of socks right here, so got the double trouble, left or right in the center. One can represent the right and the center. And I'm gonna go into philosophy. I'm gonna go, of course, a bit maybe all over the place, but a lot of my philosophies as a philosopher, as a geopolitical, theoretical analyst, and theorist, and a rock and roll artist who's financially stressed, but who's paid the rent right here, paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, and got food and coffee, and played that rainbow 24/7. I was a bit moody. I wasn't but I'm no longer depressed. It's been since 2017 when I crossed Canada coast to coast. Before that, I was depressed, suicidal. Crossing Canada coast to coast in summer 2017 made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. And ever since then, I had like an illumination. And I said so many things to do, to see across Quebec, Canada, North America, the Grand Canyon, Banff, the mountains, and all the mountains and all the plains of Quebec, Canada, North America, the North American collective civilizational complexes. In 2017, I had like a great revelation, a great awakening. So I said, here in this new civilizational complex, so many things to see and to do. So I had like a big illumination, and that event changed my whole life. Established a stronger spirit of accord with my fellow Canadians, Quebecers, North Americans, because my brothers and sisters in the USA, we're going to get that marriage somehow. Arranged marriage, arranged proposal, not arranged, but in a special type of marriage, we're going to get that LOVE, and we're going to work together coast to coast, ocean to ocean for the North American collective. That's right. And we're going to get it, yours truly, when I cross Canada coast to coast. That's when I had an illumination, a wake up, and I started working out, training, exercising. Ever since then, I've been on a fitness journey. I lost between 80 and 93 pounds. But that event in my life in 2017, right from here, from this underground room of St. Temple, and I crossed Canada coast to coast. I established by that event a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Quebecers, Canadians, and North Americans. And of course, since then, of course, I got out of being depressed, being suicidal, and I've been on a fitness journey ever since. And on a journey, I survived COVID right here. And of course, in the past, more about 3.5 years, more than 44 months, I've accepted my Asperger's, aka HFA, high functioning autism, because I've been diagnosed by several peoples and individuals and doctors online and whatever have you. But of course, I do live with being neurodivergent, and of course, I have my special focused interests, which are also called obsessive interests. But obsessive is more a term that I do not use myself, because obsessive has a more negative connotation. While for people who have Asperger's, it is more super focused, super intense, and sometimes I can spend hours and hours and hours without realizing, just analyzing back and forth the geopolitical events on the days. Then, of course, now it's full of richness and events and hardcore, pretty hardcore events in the world of geopolitics. But as a Quebecer Canadian, my initiatives are protocols and call for the mandate. The mandate of the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom is fundamentally a public-private partnership. And of course, I have been challenging Donald Trump. I'm not a Trump supporter. I would have supported, of course, I would have voted for Biden or Kamala. I'm going to vote for Biden or Kamala, but I'm going to be uttering a little bit of the more my propositions, which I've been for years, for furthermore international North American integration and my vision, the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom being fundamentally a public-private partnership, a PPP, a public-private partnership for the North American Civilizational Collective, or what I call the Great North American Civilizational Complex, which is an emergent new emergent civilizational complex that is not only divorced but is distinct from Western civilization. So from my philosophy as a philosopher, that's what you have to retain the most, that the North American civilizational complex is an emergent civilizational complex, or a complex of civilization. And of course, it is not only divorced but is distinct from Western civilization. So it has its own distinctions and geographical realities, and being the fact that it's in the new world right here where yours truly wills. I will on the Canadian border, US border, by all willingly loving to pledge your allegiance to our family, to build and construct the forgotten goddess temple. That is my dream, which I created with trillions of kisses. I got trillions of kisses created from the forgotten goddess, willingly loving to share with all my willingly loving allies and armies. Pledge your allegiance on the Canadian US border, to build and construct the forgotten goddess, GODDSS, GODDESS, the goddess, because I created my survival, the trauma, the surprise, being surprised attack a few years ago, and survived COVID and being depressed, being suicidal, and having so many scars on my body. And right here, being on the 26th of January on this Sunday, and of course, always in the process of cleaning, rearranging my room, office, and temple. Right here, the House of the Dragon, and I also will to construct the temple. House of the Dragon, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and I lay those creditations of those trillions of kisses along with millions of marching steps and lots of rock and roll in parallel to the Forgotten Goddess Temple, to build the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, something that I will to construct. Construction workers LOV on those cranes to build on the Canadian-US border, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, to have sports activities. And of course, I'm calling on the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB, to please reduce the cost of the tickets by 44.9%, by 44.9%, by 44.9%, which is of course the exclamation of the, also to distribute freely to public workers of North America, tickets to those who pick up the garbage, who pick up the compost. I got 3 services in my neighborhood of Montreal, Hawk Island, the metropolis island of 2.5 million people in Hawk Island, HAWK. My totem bird, the hawk. If you can find hawks on Mount Royal, where is my second home, a few kilometers and miles from this underground lair within DG Montreal. Here on the, I live on an island surrounded by a big river, and it's an island of big city, big metropolis island, second most populated in Canada, one of the top 10 in North America, Canada, US, Mexico joint. I think it's the 7th or the 8th. So calling all willingly loving to support the dream. My dream is, like I said, fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership across the North American collective civilizational complex to create a common currency, a common passport, and an integration of security for security, service, and defense, and rebirth for security, service, and defense, and rebirth for security, service, and defense, only defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, security, and service. And service for the 21st century based on my protocols and initiatives. Of course, I wish I could have afforded a massage therapy session, but of course, what is money? Money is to buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. We got to introduce that services in the public-private partnership matter. It's a PPP, public-private partnership, and please be some charitable millionaires, billionaires, finance, reduce the cost of the tickets, and help the building of the North American People's Imperial Coliseum on the Canadian-US border, and the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and the pyramid, the house, scarlet, crimson, scarlet. Crimson, scarlet are shades of red, the pyramid, house of the dragon, Nobody's born a dragon, not even yours truly. As I was born with a surname dragon, became turned that A into an O by hundreds of push-ups, hundreds and thousands of push-ups, and having performed my own creative workout training program system, which I've created back in 2019, officially titled the General One Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army workout, aka the 300 workout. So right now with the threat, the most important thing is, of course, as Quebecers, Canadians to know, and politicians, and to my brothers and sisters in the USA, as much as I do not, and I would have not voted for Trump, and I disagree perhaps way too strongly and passionately on certain executive orders or whatever might be the case. Sometimes we gotta balance that right and the left in the center. My universal revolutionary centrism is fundamentally North American centric and fundamentally public-private partnership based. And it's important to know as a geopolitical analyst and theorist, as an Aspie, as Asperger's, that when it comes to the realm of geopolitics, that being my kingdom, my domain, and to interject a part of my work over the past years, that back in 2019 in October, super important to note that in October to November 2019, I have predicted what has been unfolding in the past years in an international conflagration manner of World War III. I predicted it, and of course I have proofs, hundreds of videos, a workout training program system that I discussed my World War III scenario, and of course I linked on my YouTube channel that's what I concluded back in November 2019, that humanity is again set towards an international conflagration, and that's what I made, of course, back in 2019. have concluded that internationally humanity is set again towards an international conflagration, aka World War III, and so in consequence, in parallel, I made my own workout training program system designed, made, and created to go with such an event as that aforementioned. And right here from this underground room of Sun Temple, financially stressed, but got trillions of kisses credited from the goddess. Pledge your allegiance, legions. I want will friends with benefits only. Black, white, and rainbow. Black, white, and rainbow. Playing that, being androgynous, pansexual. You know, if you want to be friends with benefits, black, white, or rainbow, we're gonna get that. Pledge your allegiance, legions to our family. That's the rock and roll song as I go on this freestyle rock and roll bilingual edition of this Sunday special, 26th of January special Geopolitics edition, because of course we're kind of in a geopolitical emergency, a situation, of course, with the public finances and much of the private finances, except for someone is not everybody who's financially stressed, that's as yours truly is. But also you got to have that gratitude, you know. It's always important. I always encourage you all to work out, train, exercise, you know. Having lost between 80 and 93 pounds, I always say that's such an amazing feat on the mind and on the body to just get some exercise and a few days a week. You know, I live a very physically active lifestyle. I like to go a lot. I go a lot to the mountain, my second home, just marching on boots or whatever shoes I have, and I do workout training and exercising and rock and roll, create songs 24/7 when I come back and when I go, and it's 24/7 that Trinity with yours truly. Because you know, when you are an Aspie, if you have Asperger's, you know that you have certain interests, focus where you're super intense. And sometimes I lose track of time. I'm just involved in studying, analyzing, revising the geopolitical events of the day, of the past, and concording them to my philosophical, theoretical analysis into the world of geopolitics, and of course placing the future scenario possibilities of future concordium events in a parallel as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. And I am an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist who has predicted in many ways, in a general way, in a general manner, not in a very detailed manner, detail by detail, with geopolitical event and conflict which has unfolded ever since October 2019, November 2019. But in a general manner, I predicted an international conflagration of World War III, which is a possibility. Some say it has even started, but nonetheless, I've been in that mode, and to continue the Dragon versus Trump, because I've been challenging Donald Trump. Actually, before 2018, I was just coming out of being depressed and suicidal, and of course, being depressed and suicidal, I kind of was on the sidelines. But in 2018, it's gonna be 7 years in spring, March 2018, when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, 10% on Canadian aluminum and steel, and now with the threat of 25% looming. This Quebecer Canadian, who was born 3 times in the USA, served both times in the United States Army, 2 different wars, 156 years apart. 156 years apart. The wars were 156 years apart. You just gotta read George Patton through a glass dark, and you have I don't know how visible it is in the camera, but there on the table is both the Canadian and the US flag. The Canadian and the US flag, you got the Quebecer, the Canadian and the US flag on here in the background. It's not that visible, and part of the rainbow flag being part of the rainbow community, LGBTQ being androgynous, pansexual, you know, we gotta get that XYZ. And I am myself androgynous, if that wilt, you know, and consider myself pretty much 50-50. And sometimes that's how you gotta do it, 50-50, you know. And I've been challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match. Let's start Dragon versus Trump, and let's lay the first bricks for the North American Union on the Canadian-US border by building the forgotten goddess Geopolitiks temple. That's my will, because I created my surviving, making it up to today with all the XYZ, the scars, all the imperfections, all the being with one foot in the streets, one foot in the libraries, and having raw retrograde amnesia and loss of memory, and remember mostly the past 7, 8, 9+ years, and moving from a moldy place, depressed, suicidal, and cross Canada coast to coast. That event made me come out of being depressed and suicidal, and I come out of being the depression. I kind of conquered depression after I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event really changed my life, and then I died in 2020 of COVID, and I'm being reborn, nothing that I want to go to. And I want to give a shout out to my anonymous friend who wasn't my friend because of the money, who got these gloves when I first started challenging Donald Trump. So it's going to be almost 7 years coming in a few months. In March is going to be marking 7 years since 2018, right? So that's when I kind of joined from the sidelines. I kind of joined in the politics with the challenge to Donald Trump on the Canadian-US border, Dragon versus Trump, you know, but in a sportsmanlike manner, because as much as I disagree, Concordium, at the end of the day, my brothers and sisters were not enemies. My cousin Justin Trudeau, at the end of the day, were not enemies. My auntie Christia Freeland, you know, all my brothers and sisters, sometimes from the left and the right and the center. We got to make a concordium, and sometimes it's in the center by PPPs, public-private partnership, that of course are the most things to do. And of course, I don't know about that 51st state, but of course there has to be some discussions about it, what exactly, how more understood, and of course the unification of the North American civilizational complex under how, and of course theoretically, in theory, as the states have certain independent jurisdictions, of course it would be something to explore, and keeping in mind that Donald Trump and that we would have the system of two-term presidencies, right? The two-term presidencies, just like Mexico has what's called the sextennium. Mexico has what's called the sextennium. Mexico has what's called the sextennium, which Mexican presidents, their system is the president can only serve a one term for 6 years. A one term for 6 years. And it's different from our Canadian system, right? You okay?
You should put that thing back. This wing thing. When somebody's out because you can't get in.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, you're right. I put it back, eh?
It's pretty mild outside, actually. I'm surprised. I thought it was cold. Overdressed.
Yeah.
It's also mild.
It's supposed to go down and then come back up in the morning, in the afternoon tomorrow. It's supposed to go down to -12 by midnight. Anyway, so that I was saying, you know, that sometimes the systems which we have, and my brothers and sisters, fellow Canadians, the king is absent, the king is absent, the king is absent, you know? And of course, Justin Trudeau, my cousin, has been in power as prime minister since 2015. Since 2015, you know?
Things, you don't put them in the front of your thing because it's going to fall and break.
Since 2015. You're right. I'm going to do better, thank you.
I just moved it back for you, but keep that in mind. Anybody, could be me, could be you, passing, break. This one, the vibration of the walking. I didn't have to go far because Farm Mercury had what I needed on special.
That's good.
So I didn't have to go far.
That's good. That's great. Good news. I'm going to take a bath later. I don't know if you want to do math like
No, I have to do my hair, so how long are you taking your bath for?
an hour.
So you're going to start now?
No, I'm going to start at around 7.
Well, that's in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
7 to 8. That means I'm going to have to sacrifice this sleep. Okay, don't be later than 8, okay?
Don't be later than 8.
Because I have to do my hair. I have to work tomorrow, so I can't stay up too late.
Okay, what time is it now? 6:24? Okay, so I'll take it at 7 then.
That's what you said.
Yeah. I'll take my bath at 7.
You said an hour.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, got only a bath here, so we gotta share the bath. You know, it's compromises. You know, so that's how it is with compromise. I have a small place, but it's way better than where I used to live. You know, I used to live in an underground moldy place. You know, but here I am. So back to the discussion. Okay, so it's gonna be a rapid fire. I don't know if I'm gonna get to do a little bit of French on it, but maybe. So maybe. So in theory, theory practice, like my workout, of course, which I've created, you have to apply, you have to work out. So there's also the doing part, the philosophical part. And me, I'm a pro labor and love universal revolutionary centrist. I am calling from the heart, my brothers and sisters, millionaires, billionaires, you know, just mass finance some charity, give some, let's freeze the prices, freeze the prices. Implement my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the universal exchange unit. The creation of the universal exchange unit, the creation of the universal exchange unit, the creation of the universal exchange unit, the UE. The DRT, debt refusion theory, is something which we gotta be implementing as soon as possible. Because with the public financial system of Canada where we are now, we gotta make that, of course, statement, and we gotta do the meditation, and we gotta do sometimes the implementation of the implementing of the theory. It takes doing, right? Sometimes it's not, sometimes the philosophies, and of course sometimes the left and the right.
Because I was looking for heart-shaped lollipops.
Yeah,
They have them there on special, so
nice.
the cheapest I could find. So I got them for my student. 30 in a bag.
Hey, that's nice.
30 students in the class. Well, 27.
Wow, that's nice.
30 for 359. Everything else is more expensive. So
30 for how much?
359, 349,
30 pieces. So that means that it comes out to about 15 cents each.
Oh, that's good.
Per unit is good. I estimated by my head, but I'm not sure. You gotta check with the calculator. My estimation is probably close by. Anyways, you gotta check sometimes the shopping, you know, when you have to budget, like myself, you know, budget tight, but always rent electricity first, always rent electricity first, always rent electricity first, always rent electricity first, always rent.
Yes, have more money than I do. The rich families.
Always rent an electricity first, and what have you. And the case may be at the point that, of course, we got to implement, of course, the DRT directive, the DRT proposition, and the DRT theory, my theory, the debt refusion theory, of course, for the creation of the UE. So back, of course, to the point that we have a system. So different, Canada, United States, Mexico have different systems, and my brothers and sisters, Canadians, the king is absent. We are to pledge allegiance, you know, and I'll pledge allegiance to defend my fellow Quebecers, my fellow Canadians, you know, because the farmers, the butchers, the construction workers, the children are innocent and they're joyous. The youth, the adolescents, you know, when we put on a uniform to defend, there's got to be a protocol to say, you know, to those, and all who come to join us, of course, all who come to join us. So although I'm not a Trump supporter, I would have voted for Joe Biden and Harris, and I would have had my own executive orders, which I would have signed as the U.S. president. I would have signed the executive orders to give affordable health care and affordable Medicare. I would have signed an executive orders to rebuild the North American inner cities, aka the ghettos, rebuild the ghettos, mass rebuilding, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and mobilize, of course, to rebuild the North American inner cities, the ghettos of North America. That would have been a good executive order, my brothers and sisters, you know. Gonna sign an executive order to establish a national public hug and massage day, national hug and massage day, Saturdays for the Sabbath, where people freely with consent, adults and whatever, teenagers with teenagers, will be the public hug and massage day, where you go with the lotion, and Saturday, 3 o'clock Saturday till 3 o'clock Sunday, massage day and night, massage and dance Sabbath day, you know, where things would be free, nobody pays for anything, would be things one for, you know, the food, all you can eat, from fast food, all you can eat from the fast food, all you can drink, all you can dance. Gotta watch it. Don't overdo it, but it'll be the Sabbath. An executive order for the establishment of the Sabbath, of the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom for Saturday for dancing and love and massaging and consent and hygiene, and all that. And then security services get every second week a rotation, so that they also get a Sabbath. The armies and the security forces, so that they also get a Sabbath. It'll be bi-weekly for the security forces, but they have to get 2 Sabbath a month every other week, if not, because we have to have some security, because we do have, we have potential domestic threats and from outside of the North American collective realm, because we got involved not only in a humanitarian manner, but as Canadians, North Americans, but also in the military arms. We've provided arms and whatever have you to powers, and we've involved in certain conflicts, whereas we potentially made powerful enemies of nation states and even organizations such as BRICS. We're not only antagonistic, hostile, but the hostilities have grown. So now, leave the baggage at the door. Leave the fact that I'm 50-50, that I'm androgynous, that I would have signed pretty much different, mostly public-private partnership based on a little bit of a LOVE based executive orders, but also based in some realities, because the reality of security is a reality which has got to dance together in harmony with liberty and security. They gotta have a dance, and sometimes the right and the left, you gotta get it in the center. And in the past decade, and this is one of my theories and philosophies to grasp, I'm gonna say, that in the past, let's say, years, a lot of, from the left, there has been a lot of criticism, without providing more solutions and more action. And to that criticism, there has been a growing, in the past decade, let's say, Canada, US, and because North America is what I know, although I know Europe, and I know by studying, by learning books and news analysis all over the world, being cosmopolitan, but fundamentally my experience is Quebecer, Canadian, North American, Montreal. My experience is fundamentally Quebecer, Canadian, North American, Montreal. Quebecer, Canadian, North American, Montreal. So whatever the case may be, is if we can put an interjection that, well, there has been a lot of criticism, but overly criticism, the ideologies, the focusing ideologies of mostly left, have been a lot of criticism. And over the years, that criticism provoked a sort of reactionary resentment. And then you have, as a reaction to this, a more right-wing, more based in principles which are more action-based, and let's say more based on strength and nationalism, if you will, or whatever have you, more too individualistic, right? Because we also have to have the balance between the individual, liberty, security, and freedom, and the collective. It's always a harmony. So those counterpositions from too much criticism, which has to be counterbalanced by offering an alternative, exploring different dimension, offering an alternative, or being a little bit under criticism with certain alternative solutions, right? Certain solutions. Let's say take racism for sure. It exists in individual beings, racism, how are we going to work on it, right? If we're not offering something, let's say to my black brothers and sisters who comprise 13.4% of the North American population, my neighbors included, are blacks. I offer what I offer everybody else. Kisses I got by the trillions, hugs and togetherness. Money I don't have because I'm financially stressed, but I would definitely be charitable in such ways. If I would have been in the position to be a billionaire, I would have definitely went in Canada and distributed 50,000 to different individuals, homeless or vulnerable, whatever. And I would say, this is my redemption. This is your second chance. This is my redemption. Take the 50,000 and transform your life. You can begin over, and whatever the case may be for that. So that is also to be action, action, solutions by action, implementation of action, parallel to the philosophies and the theorizing. Because yes, sometimes it's within us. We live certain experiences, and subconsciously we might associate to a certain group or certain individuals, but we're also individuals. We're part of a collective. Here, Quebecers, Canadians, we're part of a greater collective, a collective North American civilizational complex. And Canada and the US, by integrating as equals, 50-50, a compromise marriage, like a compromised family marriage. Left, right, and center, left, right, and center. Canadians can only strengthen American brothers and sisters as North Americans. My brothers and sisters in the USA can strengthen Canadians and vice versa. One will strengthen the other. And in a way, it is our destiny because we're a new civilizational complex, right? Civilizational complex. And the geographical realities, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We got the Atlantic and we got the Pacific. No need to spy on me. Secret services of China don't traverse the Pacific to come spy on Rainbow Dragon. On the Atlantic, secret services of Russia no need to cross the Atlantic to spy on Rainbow Dragon, you know. And got Asperger's. I'm a weirdo, and I'm a bit, on the autistic side. I am also an artist, but I have my strengths, and I have also certain things in certain areas. I'm less able. I'm mediocre. I'm average, perhaps useless even in certain things. I'm perhaps good at some other things, Friends with benefits only, pledge your allegiance, legions, and North Americans unite, yes. But how and exactly how? And my brothers and sisters, we must. BNS, we gotta do also as millionaires, BNS who are across the North American collective civilizational complex. We have to do better for those who give second chances to those who are in a financially precarious situation. The wages, of course, and the wages and labor. We can't have too much of the right wing and too much of the left wing. The individual and the collective, it's always a philosophical balance. Here as North Americans, we are a very multi-plural, so diverse civilizational complex. We're new. Again, we're not totally divorced from Western civilization, but we're distinct. So we're not totally divorced from Western civilization, but we have our distinctions. So my brothers and sisters, there's this Quebecer Canadian who was born in the USA 3 times in past lives, previous incarnations, post 7076. Once as a woman. You get that rainbow 50-50 now, twice as a man. I was served in the United States Army, United States Army, twice in 2 different wars, 156 years apart. And you rock and roll with that. And sometimes you gotta have some LOVE. In theory and practice, I wouldn't mind the 51 state, but it would be different states and integration. But that would mean also that as Canadians, myself, I could, of course, go for the elections as United States President for 2028. My platform would be a very centrist one, and would be only defense, security, and service. Defense, security, and service, and rebuilding. The North American urban cities also will have to be on the top 5 priority list. The ghettos of North America. Rebuild the ghettos. Mass financing rebuilding of the ghettos of North America. Billions and billions of dollars. I would have to ask the billionaire class 10% for revitalization of the North American civilizational complex, to rebuild the infrastructure, to raise the wages and even freeze the wages by the implementation of my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. My brothers and sisters, if you're millionaire billionaire, you gotta have a little bit of XYZ to give a little bit of charity, right? Charity is super important, to be charitable in certain circumstances. In the circumstances which we have today, that many are struggling, my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, is something which is fundamentally important and is crucial in an emergency position manner that we gotta have to do the implementation thereof. We can't, we have to, the freedom is new. I got freedom, it says FRE, don't freedom here. It's a tattoo, right? Supposedly I got it in New York somewhere. Don't remember that by my recent memory. Just have blackouts of memory. I just remember mostly 7-8 years, and but I got it tattooed here. And from what I've written in diaries, I have a few, like 3 diaries and on USB keys and memorandum and poetry. But I got it supposedly in New York City. Freedom, FRE don't. But freedom is new under the sun, Mr. King Solomon. Freedom is new, and we are here to be free. My brothers and sisters, blacks and whites and browns here in the North American collective. We can emerge stronger, and you are by the union of the Canada with the United States. By the union of Canada with the United States, which generally I'm pro for, but not necessarily in an oligarchical manner only for the rich, because also for the people. And of course, I'm not a Trump supporter, but of course he did say LOVE, some Canadians, but love some Canadians with a little bit of charity more. I don't know about that 51 state, but I do know that the king is absent. The king is absent, brothers and sisters. Go pledge your allegiance to fellow 40 plus, 41, 42 million now fellow Canadians when you put on a uniform to defend, and gotta send a message to Donald Trump that we got, myself included, 10 million Quebecers. See, that's the flag of Quebec right there with the fleur de lis. Fleur de lis. I sing rock and roll. It's not only Celine Dion. That's but I gotta say that as a, if I would candidate for presidency, for the next presidency, as the Democratic Republican, as a Republican Democrat, pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centrism. Let's say, if you're 51st states, it's opening the doors, of course, for a Canadian or a Quebecer to also become president of the United States, because as a state, right, to become a state, to become integrated. My vision is mostly as a parallel, as a European Union type of integration, as a parallel, as a European Union type of integration. But of course, as a state would be something else, because in Canada, the king is absent. If we are to pledge allegiance when you put on the uniform, myself, when I crossed Canada in 2017, that's when I established a strong esprit de corps, and I relate to my brothers and sisters as family. My Uncle Legault, sometimes with my Uncle Legault, I don't see 100%, but on certain issues, maybe. But he has a certain wisdom which I don't have. Justin Trudeau also has a certain, my cousin Justin, my auntie Christian Freeland, has a certain wisdom which I do not fully possess. The North American civilizational complex, we are North Americans. And the geographical, geopolitical realities is that, regardless of everything else, our leaders, fundamentally, we have to understand that our main geopolitical concern as Quebecer Canadians, regardless of other things aside, is to have the best, most important relations with my brothers and sisters in the USA. The best in all levels: cultural, sports, business, security, military, diplomatic, in all circumstances, in all areas, fundamentally, whether you're on the left, on the right, and in the center, to have the best relations with my brothers and sisters in the USA. Whether we like it or not, whether we understand it or not fully, that's just the geopolitical reality. That's just how it is. We have two oceans to the east, we have the Atlantic, to the west, we have the Pacific. That's just how it is. In our reality, and as I have freedom tattooed there, freedom has to be insured, my brothers and sisters. Freedom has to be insured. And to my brothers and sisters who lost their liberty, to be incarcerated, to lose their freedom, we gotta implement, as the President of the United States, I would have signed an executive order for the rehabilitation of the incarcerated population, for the rehabilitation of the incarcerated population, the rehabilitation of the North American incarcerated population, with some work, while signing an executive order to rebuild the North American inner cities, aka the ghettos. We gotta mass finance the rebuilding of the infrastructure as well. Mass finance fitness, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, mass finance fitness, super important to mass finance these things as we are here now, in the possible difficult situation, a geopolitical situation which is so adverse and is contrary to everything that we have to be as North Americans, but we can only solidify and strengthen each other, right? Strengthen each other. I know we have to fight for North Americans, for the North American Union, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and play that defense, security, and service. That's my protocols and initiative. Play that defense, security, and service. Defense, security, and service. Play that defense, security, and service. That's just my vision of the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. As a fundamentally, it's a public-private partnership. My brothers and sisters, Canadians, the king is absent, the queen is absent. If I am, of course, I would join to defend if there would be an invading force from outside Canada, outside North America, then I'll be the first to join. And I gotta salute my President Trump, because when asked the question whether he will use military force to invade, to take Canada, he immediately, without hesitation, said no. Immediately said no. Because if he would have said yes, I would have right been on the mountain, get ready to implement Operation Canadian Dracula Defense, Operation Canadian Dracula Defense, Operation Protocol Canadian Dracula Defense. Because yes, I understand peace through strength, the philosophy, but it's not enough. It has to be complementary by LOVE, by love and understanding. If Donald Trump was governor of Canada somewhere, gives me governor of Canada, Rainbow Dragon, calls me and Says, I'm gonna ask how is the States doing, how's the States doing, can you implement this, can you implement this, can you implement this protocol? We gotta mass rebuild the North American inner cities, the urban ghettos, the ghettos of North America. We gotta mass finance citizens to work out, train, exercise, and we gotta give a little bit of better wages, and we gotta get that DRT, that fusion treaty, for the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange, and we gotta play that defense coast to coast, and we gotta construct and build. That would be an executive order I would sign. It's the government of Canada, United States, whatever, President 2020, 2028, 2028, 2028, to build 44 tunnels, construct, build 44 tunnels, construct, build 44 tunnels. 44, the number after 43, before 45, in case of a thermonuclear war outside the North American civilizational complex. Part of my calling for the public-private partnership to implement Operation Northern Scorpion, which is based on my total mobile defense theory system, total mobile defense theory, TMDTS, total mobile defense, TMD, total mobile defense system theory, as part of the Operation Northern Scorpion, to build and construct 44 tunnels. 44 tunnels, 44 tunnels. In case of a thermonuclear war, and stack them with sardines, such as these ones. See? See, these sardines, it says, is best by September 29, 20th September 29, best by September 29, 20th. So 5 years. They're still good for 5 years, because this is the best before, so it's not the expiry date. So in theory, they could be for 7 years, for 7 years from now, as I'm calling for the implementation of the North American Septennium, Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Kingdom, which is fundamentally a call for a public-private partnership. See, it says best by, but the best by date has to be discerned. It's not the same of expiry date, because I worked for a few years. I actually did a lot of volunteering in food banks, and I had to resort for food bank use myself as a citizen, and that's something which I gotta salute the farmers and the butchers and the truckers and all those bakers and the cooks and all those who produce our food across the North American complex. And this is a Canadian brand. It says best by September 20th, 2029. 2029. So 5 years from now. But because it's not the expiry date, it's the best before date. So that means that this can of sardines, 200 grams from Canada, product of Canada, Canadian, see, product of Canada, Nova Scotia, is good. So we got to stack those 44 tunnels with food items such as this in case of a thermonuclear war outside of the North American complex, for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex, for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex, for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex. That's a protocol, the initiative I started writing about 7 years ago, or even 7 or 6 years ago. I wrote a theoretical paper. Many of my papers are geopolitically based, but North American centric, which over the past 7 years, as a North American philosopher, artist, athlete, philosopher, and mystic, and I've written a theoretical protocol called the Initiative, the Public-Private Partnership Citizen Integrated Initiative for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex. So I have to find it on different USB keys, what I've written and by hand and by computers, thousands of pages of geopolitics, geopolitical initiatives, geopolitical philosophies, of which I just said something. It has like a great title, a grand like scholarly academic title, the Public-Private Partnership Citizen Integrated Initiative for the defense of the North American civilizational complex and for the continuity of the North American civilizational complex in case of a thermonuclear war. So basically that was a paper to build and construct 44 tunnels across Canada, US, and even Mexico joint, but Canada, US primarily. NORAD is of course the North American military alliance, and the tunnels are inspired partly by the Cheyenne Mountain in the north, Cheyenne Mountain, of course, which is the NORAD headquarters, and part of due to the Montreal underground city. In Montreal, we have underground village. It's miles and kilometers underground underneath the earth. So based on inspiration by that, inspired by the tunnels, those tunnels are inspired by the underground village of Montreal and in part by the Cheyenne Mountain complex. So I have to find it. I'm still cleaning. I'm cleaning every week, every Monday and every Friday. I'm still cleaning. I found a few USB keys, but one of them doesn't work. The metal thing is kind of broken, so I think a lot of my writings are there, but they're in the head. A lot of them are generally still in the head, but I've written tens of thousands of pages of philosophy, geopolitical analysis, and theory. And fundamentally, in 2019, keep in mind that I've been in kind of a World War III mode ever since 2019, October, November, because I predicted in a general manner what's happening now across the North American civilizational complex across North America. And that's what it is right here. For the yours truly, we're going to discuss now the DRT theory, and then, of course, I got to go take a bath. I recommend taking a bath, open for business, support this independent, financially struggling and stressed, but grateful, thankful. I got some pie. I got to recommend a Canadian pie. I ate half later, see? Actually, it's very affordable. I'm not getting sponsorship from any corporation, any financial sponsorship. The only actually finance and money that I got was about a few months ago by a fellow Asp who has Asperger's like myself, HFA, high functioning autism. I got $25.44, so not that much, but greatly appreciated, you know. So we got this sugar crepe pie, $3, but it's 430 grams, 430 grams. So it's good, and the value, the quantity and the quality is good for $3 Canadian, $3 Canadian. So it's 430 grams, and it's Canadian President's Choice. It's called Crustasic Sugar Crave Pie, Sugar Crave Pie. So it's actually a really good pie. It's new on the market. So if you ever want to try it out. I'm actually surprised that I still have some. I'm actually surprised. That I still have some, and now I'm gonna discuss a little bit of the socks. So I got these. I'm gonna start with my cleaning tomorrow. I got a new pair of socks, and 20 pairs for $10. 20 pairs, they're imported. But I'm wondering if we can make all the socks if we can make in Canada. Can we make, open question to my fellow Quebecers, Canadians, can we make them all in Quebec, Canada, and by extension the USA for the North American Collective? Canada, US, and USA. Can we make the socks like this? So I paid $10, $10 Canadian for 20. So that means that divided to the mathematics, 50 cents each. Socks. So now I got socks galore for the next months. For the next weeks and months, I got socks. And auctioning all the socks that I had before, that a little bit of ripped, my ripped socks, which I march more than the generals of NATO combined during COVID. And in the past weeks and months and years in the past, I marched more than the generals of NATO. And part of those socks here, we got socks, and got 5 pairs of men underwear. 5 pairs. They're also imported. So can we make in Quebec, Canada, by extension the USA, North America, Canada, US, German-based Canada, US, let's say Quebec, Canada, can we make, open question, these are underwears, all the underwears. I would love to have a rainbow one, but I couldn't find it on the market. I would have gotten all of them rainbow color, or red, actually red my favorite color, but a little bit of black and white and rainbow with it, or a little bit of being part of the yours truly rainbow dragon right here. But I got, there were 3 plus 2, so 5 for 13, 5 for 13, 5 for 13, so I guess that's pretty good. I don't know, these medium, so that's what I got. So here they are. I hope they fit me, because it was the, I just realized I got medium. What? 5 minutes, eh? 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes. I'm on the clock. Let's go for the DRT. The DRT, that refusion during the 5 minutes, my anonymous friend. Said I got 5 minutes, time on the clock. Let's go for the DRT, debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory is, of course, my theory for the North American Collective and beyond, and of course Canada first. The motive that I say my DRT theory is the only solution where we are now with the public finances, being that the fact that in the public finances of Canada we pay interest which we paid in 2024 has mounted to 46.5 billion, has increased from 2021 from 20.3 billion. Do the math, 20.3 billion. A billion is 1,000 million. A billion has 9 zeros. So the amount of billions from 2020, 2021, 20.3 billion times 2, that would have been 40.6. We now pay 46.5 billion, and we paid on the public debt, 46.5 billion, and that's what it is. 20.3 times 2, it would have been 40.6. So it more than doubled to 46.5 billion. It more than doubled. Paying debt servicing of the public debt has more than doubled. So this is an alarm, an emergency, and my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, the debt refusion theory, and paradoxically being an ASPE, as many curses have been on me, but now the blessings for us that I put on the table is the DRT theory, the debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE. So due to the fact that paying the interest on the public debt of Canada has more than doubled. more than double. A billion is 1,000 million, so keep that in mind. And of course, due to COVID, having survived COVID, and the programs which were implemented during COVID made it so that the debt interest, only the interest on the public debt servicing has more than doubled from 20.3 billion to 46.5 billion. Keep that in mind. So my DRT theory also includes monetary integration theory, is exactly the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. The Germans, they destroyed their national central banks, the Italians also, the French as well. So they now have the ECB, the European Central Bank, which is their common bank. The ECB is the common supranational bank. They no longer have central banks. They no longer have central banks. They no longer have central banks. So my DRT theory includes monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. That's super important to remember in acquisition in terms of the case, that to make it for the case that my DRT theory, my brothers and sisters, is the only solution, or something very similar to my DRT theory is the only solution. You can argue all you want, but the fact is that the DRT theory, my debt refusion theory, is or something very, very similar is the solution. Make in fact that paying the interest has doubled. Put it as an individual citizen or citizen consumer, let's say me, you, or somebody else. If I don't have credit cards myself, I have a credit line to pay 11% interest of $10,000 in debt. So it's not a credit card that I have. I don't have any credit cards myself. But let's say that your debt servicing, the interest that you or somebody else, or me, let's say, or somebody else, would have went from 156 in 2021 to 333. So that's more than double. From 156 to 333, from 156 to 333, that means if the interest payments double while your salary only increases by 5, 10, 15%, how many salaries have doubled in the past 3 years during COVID? Not many. Not many salaries have doubled. So that is why the price of increasing of the price of living, the cost of living, while burdened with extra interest, more than double the payments in interest, that would have been you have to cut and reduce the budget. Reduce the budget, cut in the expenses of the government, and interjecting as a parallel individual, had to reduce some costs from what you would have spent, right? Myself included. Cut the bacon, cut the cheese, cut the Netflix, cut the Disney, you got to pay rent and electricity. But nonetheless, if your income doesn't increase by double, your income or your salary doesn't double, but your interest payments double, then you have to reduce the expenditures, what you buy, right? So that's what happened, is the similar principle with the public debt. So the fact that we now pay 46.5 billion in interest. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt. This is my DRT theory, which includes monetary integration to explain. We're going to take all the public and the private debt, We're going to take all the public and the private debt, my 10,000 included, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, my $10,000, your $10,000. We're going to convert it to the United States dollar currency. We're going to add it because it's called the DRT to be implemented in Canada first, but at the same simultaneously Canada, US. Simultaneously Canada, US, simultaneously. Take all the public-private debt, all that money converted into US dollar. Is going to be the foundations for the initial money supply for a new bank. And we're going to issue a new currency with all the public-private debt is going to be the initial money supply for this new central bank, and we're going to issue a new currency called the UE. U.universal E.exchange U.unit. U.universal E.exchange U.unit. U.universal E.exchange U.unit. The UE. And we're going to set an interest rate level of 10% maximum. It could be 3.33, 1.56, 6.1, 9.3, 7.18, 4.18. It could be less than 10%, but less than 10%, but not more by principle. With all that money, we're going to rebuild the infrastructure of the North American Collective, mass finance citizens fitness, mass finance citizens tourism, North American integrated tourism for the general wellness of the population, sign that executive order for tourism for Canada, US, joy for the wellness of the citizens, and the North American Union Collective, and the rebuilding. And with that money, we're going to be able to rebuild the North American collective infrastructure. Parallel, we're going to be able to rebuild the North American inner urban cities, aka the ghettos. We're going to be able to mass finance fitness, mass finance tourism, mass finance building more Hydro-Quebec dams here, and more Hydro-Quebec dams here, more hydroelectric dams here. We're going to be able to construct those 44 tunnels, construct those 44 tunnels, and finance the two public-private partnership complementary institutions for the 21st century, North American based centric, just like the NHL and the PVHL and the NBA. They're non-national, they're binational, Canada, US jointly. The Dancing Goddess Army, the DGA, aka the North American Integrated Dance League, and the Dragon Army, aka the North American Integrated Security Service and Defense Force, Security Service and Defense Force, Coast to Coast, Ocean to Ocean, and we're going to do a census and an audit of all finance, economic, and all infrastructure, the Great North American Audit, calling for the Great North American Audit and the Great North American Census to see who's been living here for the past 7 years and issue a passport, do a passport maybe to for the North American new citizenship and the North American Union, yours truly for the new North American passport, North American states unionized, and of course the North American Collective, a passport, and common currency, and of course we have to do a census for everybody who's been living here or come to join us from 2017 to see their level of whatever the linguistic level, English, French, and to assess what we can help as a public-private partnership for the rehabilitation and the rebirth of the North American Collective. That's it for today. Encouraging all the workout, train, exercise, LOV for the farmers, butchers, bakers, rock and roll for the truckers on the road. And you know I sing it, rock and roll up in the seat, for the stars up in the kisses, you know that I sing along. Rock and roll of freedom, it ain't easy, gotta get that harmony, that bread, gotta get that cheese, gotta get that coffee and that butter, that nut and those push-ups, gotta give it for the left and right and center. Hut, drive that fumble, don't fumble, gotta rumble. And you know we play it double for the rock and roll up in the rainbow dragon, gotta play black and white and rainbow so you see how shades are. For the rub up in the player, for you know up in the slayer, for another kiss and rock and roll, you know it, rock and roll it every day. As I freestyle on the go, as I freestyle for you know. And another rainbow dragon, I'm the noser, you go on the tozer, and you freestyle get a rainbow. For the kisses, for the melody, you know, the kisses for the goddess, and help support build the forgotten goddess temple. On the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, the Rainbow Dragon, House, the House of the Dragon, Scarlet Pyramid. The House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Crimson, our shades, and red, my favorite color, that's what I said, and the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow LGBTQ community, LOV, make LOVE, hug like you never hugged before with consent, is the main message.